Welcome to podcast number 3 for Anytime Fitness Lakewood, and actually it's part 2 of a 3-part series if you're following along on those numbers there. This is personal trainer Matthew Fogle, sitting with Kerrin Going again, a registered and licensed dietitian with Brooks Rehabilitation Hospital. And if you haven't checked out the first podcast, we got into Kerrin's background, why she got into nutrition, and some of her philosophies on change. And if you haven't listened to that podcast, I would highly recommend you start there before listening to this one. So we're going to dive in. Kerrin, welcome again. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Matthew. Great to be back.
Okay, so we're going to dive in a little bit more. I'd like to kind of discuss one topic in particular and then one topic that doesn't get as much attention. But first off, we'll talk about weight loss. Again, 70% of the population in the U.S. is either overweight or obese. I don't know what the percentages are on those who are teetering on that line, but just it's fair to say that we're a fairly overweight country, and a lot of people who come to the gym are looking to lose weight, and that's a general consensus with a lot of people. And so we always are going to point to machines and different things in the gym, free weights and cardio equipment. We can help them there. But when they leave here, they put these things in their mouth, called food items, food products. And those things matter very much to their goals. And so what advice do you have for our clients, the listener of this podcast, or your clients in general about, losing weight and how to start that process with nutrition?
Well, my equation is always diet and exercise. And I think it's great that everybody's coming into the gym to work out. Mm-hmm. It's a really great habit to establish. So what I would recommend, I always say that weight loss begins in the kitchen.
Okay.
So that's the first part. And so the biggest thing that I'm finding right now is that people just need to stop eating. We are overeating as a society. And we all know what's good and what's bad as far as food items go. But can we limit the amount of food that we're eating? And if we do, that's a great start. So it does begin in the kitchen. It does begin by watching portions. It does begin at looking at what's on your plate. How many vegetables do we have? Where's our protein? Where's the fat? And really, the key is the balance of all of that. These macronutrients that we have, carbohydrates, proteins, and fats, all important for the human body. But it's the balance of all of them together to actually achieve optimum health. So, by watching our portions, increasing our vegetables, increasing our healthy fats like avocados, nuts, coconut oil, grass-fed butter. These are good, healthy fats that can actually burn fat and create that weight loss in addition to working out in the gym.
You had mentioned in our first podcast that a lot of your clients who come to you, you ask them to do a food log. Do you find that, and again, we pull no punches here at Anytime Fitness Lakewood, do you find that some people misremember their food intake? Because you'll have a lot of people who say, I don't eat anything, but I'm gaining weight. That's kind of scientifically impossible, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
So most people who aren't, quote unquote, eating anything are actually eating over their daily maintenance, correct?
Yes, and that's a great thing to remind people to write things down, because you're really holding yourself accountable and really putting pen to memory as to what you're eating. Mm-hmm. But it's amazing at the end of the day if you're really honest with yourself, and that's what it's really all about. Being honest with yourself and looking exactly, you can identify patterns of eating or the foods making better choices or different choices by just recording what you're eating. And you can just do it for 3 days, 4 days, and you actually get a hint at what you're eating.
Right. And it's funny, I'll bring up this story. Obviously, I'm not a registered dietitian, but, obviously I am interested in health. And so I can't help anybody clinically or anything of that nature. But I had a good friend who was asking me, some advice about a year and a half ago. And so I gave this good friend advice, and then when they quote unquote reported back remembering their meals, I was like, well, that's terrible. That's not even close to what we talked about. And they were like, well, I can't count that because my parents were in town. I can't count that because it was finals week. I was like, well, you got to count it. Like, the clock's always on.
That's true. And that's where lifestyle comes in. When we're beginning to lose weight, we really need to take a look at our lifestyle. And it's not that you can't go out and you can't socialize, all that, but it's actually making priority choices and actually putting your health first, and everything else comes second. We can still go out and eat and have a great time, but we need to learn and how to make healthier choices. All that is just giving people tools on how to do that.
Right. If somebody's tried multiple times to lose weight and they still are overweight, that can be very unmotivating. And if they come to you after 10 times of trying to lose weight and not losing weight, like, what do you do to motivate?
I would just encourage to focus on one particular habit at a time. And if that habit has to do with just walking and getting a little bit of exercise, that's fine. And if they want to decide to work on just eliminating excess sugar in their diet, that's fine too. But somebody with that amount of weight needs to just focus on one thing at a time. It gets too overwhelming. So I like to meet them where they're at and tell me exactly where's your priority. If it's just getting to the gym and that becomes their priority, then let's work on that. If it's eliminating late night eating, let's work on that.
Right.
Gradual changes becomes the key to it all.
You know, actual science and actual changes and actual studies and actual research is really boring to the American public. They like quick weight loss and they want it now. And whether it's a pill at a late night commercial or whether it's some sort of new diet that they've heard about, you know, that they're going to gravitate toward that. What do you think about all the fad diets, if you will? I mean, how do you combat that?
Right. And then that's where these diets work for the quick, short term. Because what happens is a lot of people cannot sustain themselves and their lifestyles on these diets. And then what happens is if the diet is too low in carbohydrates, they're losing a lot of energy. And so, again, we go back to the balance. Proteins, fats, and carbohydrates to create the energy that the body needs. These diets are anybody can lose weight on a diet.
Right.
But the key is lifestyle. Can you sustain that for the rest of your life? Somebody came up to me and said, well, I need to lose 50 pounds. I said, really? Can you maintain that weight loss of 50 pounds? I'm already seeing them 50 pounds less, but are they seeing themselves? They just want the quick fix right now. They don't realize that it does take work to transform your body, and it's a commitment. It's a commitment to diet. It's also a commitment to exercise. And the two go hand in hand. You cannot do one without the other.
Do you recommend a certain number per week of pounds to lose?
Well, we all come in all different shapes and sizes. I've always just found out that men can lose weight faster than women, which can be a little discouraging. But again, where is everybody at? Are we meeting a client who's bodybuilding? Okay, his or her needs are going to be much, much higher than, say, an average person who just wants to go to work, come home, eat healthy, exercise 3 times in the gym, and create a healthier lifestyle. So those needs are going to be different. Everyone is different on that.
Right. And just to jump back on the fad diets again, that's important to know the science. Again, for the listener out there, like, it's important that we're sitting with a registered and licensed dietitian who understands these things, because I know what goes through your head, because I've studied enough, like, surface level myself, to know that when somebody on a keto diet says, oh, well, I've lost 10 pounds, I'm like, well, you lost 10 pounds of water. I mean,
Correct.
right off the bat, So
And do they know why they lost the 10 pounds? Because of the lack of carbohydrates.
Right.
But they fail to realize that carbohydrates has B vitamins in there that they need for their body.
that's right.
So, again, the balance.
Yeah, and I'm sure it kind of can drive you zany when one of these diets catches fire like keto, because I mean, like the real science behind it. So anyways, I kind of want to jump trains a little bit, because as a high schooler, I graduated at 137 pounds. And in my college years, it was all about going to that cafeteria there at college and grabbing a ton of grilled chicken and rice and vegetables. And my goal was to gain. My goal was to gain weight. And I think a lot of the people who are hard gainers, or men or women, feel sometimes lost when we talk about dieting and we talk about nutrition, because they feel like left out, because there are people who need to gain too. And so what's your advice on that, and how to do that in a healthy fashion?
The easiest thing is to just come alongside them and help them eat. Because usually very thin people, if you notice their eating habits, they don't eat. They don't eat enough,
Right.
but they eat enough for them. Where an overweight person is eating all the time.
Right.
So the name of the game to gain weight is to focus on eating so many calories throughout the day so they can gain weight.
Do you recommend somebody like use an app for that, or use their phone, or use like a notepad?
There are wonderful apps now that we can just download and, keep a diary or keep a journal. On MyFitness is great. You can just track everything, and that's a great motivator. If you know you're behind on certain calories, time to eat a little bit more. But it's a great way to track your intake.
Okay. So anything else that you'd like to speak on about like weight loss or weight gain? We'll touch on a little bit more miscellaneous things in the third podcast, but on this topic, anything else?
The main thing is that when we gain weight or when we lose weight, it's something that we have to really embrace. It's work. But when we begin to see the body transform after it's being fed correctly and after it's been exercised, that can be a motivator in itself, because it works. Calories in and calories out.
That's right. All right. Very good. Very good. Kerrin Going, thank you for joining us for the second of 3 podcasts. We'll have you back in here talking about some more miscellaneous things. So thank you again for joining us.
Thanks, Matthew.